today we are going to get into exactly what a zero-based budget is, how it could work for you, and how the heck to actually create and implement a zero-based budget. So first off, what exactly is a zero-based budget? A zero-based budget is simply a budgeting framework that requires you to plan out your paycheck ahead of time. That's it. Before you receive your paycheck, you'll want to assign every dollar of your paycheck to a budgeting category so you know exactly where it's supposed to go and you aren't left wondering where the heck it all went at the end of the month. Then throughout the course of a month, you'll use your zero-based budget as a spending list for your money so you know exactly how much to spend and where to spend it. This leads me to my first misconception about budgeting, that budgeting is restrictive. It's only restrictive if you're doing it wrong. But a zero-based budget isn't designed to stop you from spending money on the things that you love. No budget is, for that matter. It's literally just a framework to ensure that you're in control of your money instead of the other way around. So if you want to spend $300 a month on shoes, cool. If you want to spend $500 on Grubhub every single month, no problem. Just make sure you're adding that to your spending list, also known as your budget. The second misconception around budgeting is that if you have variable income, meaning your income consistently changes, so maybe you receive commission or you have different gigs, you can't budget. You actually can, and I'll be showing you how to do that in another video. So who is zero-based budgeting for? Zero-based budgeting is great for beginners, people trying to accomplish a specific goal within 3 months, and for folks just looking to get more organization around their money. And before I forget and we dive into it, please hit that like button and subscribe for more useful financial content. All right, so let's dive into how to set up a zero-based budget. Let's go. Okay, so for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be breaking down a zero-based budget for a bi-weekly pay cycle. So that means you get paid 2 times a month, and you'll see a zero-based budget on an Excel spreadsheet, for example. You can do this on pen and paper, whatever's gonna work best for you. But my primary software that I'm gonna be using is Much, and it's already baking in a zero-based budgeting framework. I just have to plug in a couple of things to get started. All right, so before we get started, the one piece of information you will absolutely need to know in order to create your zero-based budget is how much you actually take home every single month. So from your biweekly paycheck, you can get this information from your pay stubs or look at what your direct deposit looks like into your account. This is the money that it gets put directly into your account after 401k, healthcare deductions, so on and so forth. So you will want to understand this number. And since this is a biweekly paycheck example, you'll want to just get it for each paycheck, just so you are absolutely crystal clear on how much money you actually take home every single month after deductions. And just a quick side note, I'm going to be starting as a user that's already gone through the onboarding process for Use Much. So that means I've already provided my income on a monthly basis as well as how much I pay in rent. So you'll see that as the starting point, and then you'll equally see that on the spreadsheet as well. But that information is collected at onboarding and you can tweak it as you go along. But I just want to make sure that that's clear before we get started. All right. So for this example, this is an example count that I'm using in Much. Again, through the onboarding process, this information is already collected. So I am saying that I take home $3,700 every single month. And in my zero-based budget Excel spreadsheet, this breaks down to $1,850 every single paycheck. Now, you can also use Much from a biweekly standpoint. All you have to do is come in here and edit your income. So you could do $1,850 if you want and budget per paycheck. That's totally doable in here. But for the purposes of this example, I'm going to say I'm going to do a monthly overall budget and be able to track against those goals that I'm setting for myself. All right, so let's do 3,700, update this. We're not gonna have any deductions. And all right, so that gives me my $3,700 to work with for this budget period. Since my rent has already been taken out, which is $1,025 here, I have $2,675 left to allocate to budget categories. Now, this is where the zero-based budget comes into play. Again, remember, you are supposed to allocate every single dollar of your take-home pay to a budget category before you get ready to spend, and then you're going to carry this spending list around with you throughout the month, check in with it to make sure you are hitting within those targets or those ranges. So you are the person telling your money where it's supposed to go instead of wondering where it went. And again, you can add as many categories as you want, but for this example, I'm just going to go over some highlights. Now, you really want to set up your budget for success, and that means prioritizing it from highest priority category to pay to lowest priority. So if something happens, at least those big ticket items have been taken care of for the month. I like to say, pay yourself first. What are we doing all this hard work for if we aren't paying ourselves first? And that's why I have a line items for saving at the very top. Now, some months you might only be able to save $5, but you still want to prioritize this no matter what, especially if you can. Okay. So for this example, I'm just going to say I'm prioritizing $100 to my saving every single month. Now, this Excel spreadsheet, I've already did some calculations to make it a little bit easier. The calculations are built into Much as well. So you have the option of obviously using pen and paper. Excel and Google Sheets is great. And then this automated budgeting through Much helps you be able to do this a little bit quicker. All right, so let's get into our spending plan for the month. All right, so I have $2,675 left to allocate to my budget. You want to get this to zero, hence the name zero-based budget. You want to do this before the month starts or before you get paid, before that paycheck comes in. I'm going to start adding budgeting categories. And similar to this list, again, I've already written this out. I understand where I'm spending some of my money, and rent is already included. So I just want to make sure I carve out a line item for savings. And I'm going to say for right now, I want this to be $50. You can add whenever this is due if you want. And this is variable because throughout the month, I might change this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get that added to my spending list. Go back up here, and now I see that that's gone down to $26.50. And actually, I wanted my savings to be $100 every month. So let me go ahead and update that. And that should bring me down to $2,575 left to allocate. So I'm going to hit pause and I'm going to start adding all of my budgeting categories. I'm going to spend all of this money on paper before it hits my bank account until I hit zero. And these categories can look wildly different for everyone, whether you have childcare, dog stuff, fun money, whatever that needs to look like, just throw it on your spending list. Spend some time with your money, understand where you're currently spending your money, and let's create a game plan. All right, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm going to go ahead and add all of my budgeting categories to my budget. All right, so I've actually went through and added all of my budgeting categories simply by clicking add category, adding the category name, the spending limit. You can add a due date if you want and set reminders for yourself, and then whether or not it's a variable or fixed expense. So that's basically it. But now this is where a lot of the dilemma comes in for folks in terms of spending all of their income on paper. You spent it all, but now you still have $175 to allocate somewhere. And you're not really sure where that should actually go. So here, even on my paper spending, I still have $175 to spend. And this is where the importance of a zero-based budget and working towards a really awesome goal can help you out. So even if in these categories you want to adjust it because you're like, whoa, $500 every single month for food is maybe a lot for one person, maybe you can bring that down a little bit. So even if you say, let's say, actually, I want to see if I can hit $450, that saves me $50 to be able to put to another category. And what that can look like, so let's do this here, is putting that towards an actual goal that you're baking in. And there's nothing wrong with that. All you have to do is simply add a line item saying your goal. So maybe that could be extra to debt. And let's say, $100 this time around and 50 here. Oops, I actually went over in this category, so I'm going to do 90 here. There we go. And then that equals, let's go ahead and sum this up. All right, 140. I still have $85 of my budget remaining. So even if I want to go ahead and add that extra to that, just to start zeroing this out. Let's say that's just like credit card. I'm gonna add that there. And so I know when I get paid, I should be on a biweekly basis, at least putting $70 towards this line item because I've already planned for it. I know that I can actually pay extra to my debt because I've made it a priority within my own budget, and it's right here. All right, so now I have $85 left, and it's kind of like, okay, where can this go? Where should it go? Things you can consider or think about is upping your retirement and getting that match or putting it towards an emergency fund and building it that way. But it's really, really important that you zero this out. So for this example, I'm just going to add extra to my savings because, well, I have the money to be able to do so. Even after giving myself $400 in miscellaneous for the month of just spending it on whatever I want and shopping and food. Again, a budget does not have to be restrictive. You just want to make sure you're getting organized around your money. And again, telling it where to go instead of wondering where the hell it actually went. So this is looking pretty good. I've now zeroed out. I have $0 left to spend on paper or for my budgeting plan. In here, I will, let's say I put 85 extra towards my savings. So this would be 185. We're going to go ahead and add that here. So here's that 125, 135, 135. Okay, and now we're zeroed out across the board. We spent all of our money on paper. There's nothing remaining left to spend. And now we have this guidance. Now you may notice over here on this paycheck that different things are coming out at different times. So let's say on the first paycheck, I'm not paying car insurance, but on the second paycheck, because the car insurance is due at the first of the month, and this paycheck aligns well with being able to pay that on the second half of the month. That's where I'll allocate the money and where it should go. If you want something granular like that, this is a good way to break it down. Here, I've split the rent, so it's not coming all out of one paycheck, but I only recommend you do this when you have at least a month's worth of savings in your emergency fund, because then that way you have the luxury of being able to split up your rent. If not, it should come out of one paycheck. So you might look at something like this where it starts throwing your numbers really off. And then you have to adjust some of this stuff. So this might look like $50. This might look like $100. This might look like $0. This will maybe look like $100 instead. So you have to start playing around with the numbers. But if rent comes out of one paycheck, this is where it becomes important to, start managing your money a little bit better. And this really, really helps in terms of guidance to be able to do that. So if you're feeling stressed around one paycheck because so much is coming out, your cable, your cell phone bill, your rent, and you barely have anything left at the end of that paycheck to last you the next 2 weeks, that is the importance of a budget and getting on track. You can build up that savings to give you some breathing room in order to start making more advanced budgeting decisions. Again, being able to split that rent across 2 different paychecks so it's not putting so much pressure on one paycheck, leaving you with having to scramble for another. So let's continue to do this just for example purposes. But you'll want to get this back to 0. So right now it's saying that on paper, I'm spending $20.80. My paycheck, obviously I'm only getting paid $18.50. I need to figure out a better way to cut this down and get this to where I need it to be ultimately. For, let's say my car payment was $220. Maybe I need to do $290 here or $190 here, so on and so forth. So you'll want to get these numbers balanced. And I'll do a quick pause just so you can see it from a paycheck to paycheck standpoint. But equally, as you're going throughout the month, your monthly targets here, you're able to start logging that progress and tracking that to make sure you're staying on top of your budget and managing your money effectively. I'm going to go ahead and shift this Excel budget really quick so you can see what it looks like from a rent or mortgage coming out of one paycheck. All right, so I quickly shifted this around to make it look a little more realistic for some folks. So rent is coming out of this first paycheck, and having to kind of juggle and see where the numbers lay out in terms of food. So this becomes $150 instead of an even split, and I'm still spending the $450 on paper, like as mentioned here, but now that's adjusting a little bit more. And this is where it becomes important to start managing your money in an effective way. again, so you can get ahead of this, have the money saved, a paycheck or at least expenses paid for the whole month. And it's sitting in an emergency fund, so you can start having a little more breathing room when it comes to your budget and being able to split these things up. And that's advanced budgeting 101. But for now, this is a good example of how you start changing what each paycheck looks like in order to have those monthly totals that you need to meet met, and you're having enough to be able to eat for the month and have some fun money in here as well. Miscellaneous is to spend on whatever you want, and you're also hitting your goals and you're baking that into your budget, creating priorities around your money. Now, as you go out through the rest of the month, what you're going to want to do is log your spending habits. And a great way is automated through budgeting and use much. But equally, you can use this as a way to track your spending. So let's say in a budget category, gas, I went up to the pump and I spent $35.50 or $20 gas at Shell station. I'm just going to write a note to myself for what that was. There was no due date. It's not a bill. Didn't need to pay that. And then as I go down to my gas, it's 4.1% of my income, which is crazy because gas prices nowadays, right? It'll tell you as you log how much you have available and left for that particular category. So I set my target at $150 for the month. I've spent $35.20, and it just serves as a reminder to keep you on track with your money, and it'll start ticking and tying all that information for you, tell you how much you spent. And that is the way that you can actually implement a zero-based budget. And another video, I'll show you how to effectively put controls in place to not only implement, but really drive behavior changes around your money, whether that be through the cash envelope system, setting up 3 different bank accounts in order to manage bills, spending, and savings. But it all ties back to the foundational point of building a zero-based budget first. So at least you have organization around your money, and then you'll have some tools in order to actually implement that in an effective way. I hope this was super helpful for you. Take care.